Stand by to fall in, Polk County. This is today's veteran. Hello and welcome, and on behalf of everyone at the Polk County Office of Veterans Services, thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Brian Lacey, and on this installment of today's Veteran, we talk about how veterans and their families can start with their hurricane preparation plans. But first, we want to talk about increasing veterans' access to health care. The Mission Act strengthens the VA's ability to deliver trusted, easy access, high quality care at the VA facilities virtually through telehealth and in your community. That means you get the care and services you need when you want it and when you need it. Joining me in studio is Michael Chimina. He is an associate group practice manager. First time on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Appreciate the opportunity.
So talk to me a little bit about what you do. How did you get the gig?
So how I got the gig was I used to work for Congressman Bill Arakis' office, local congressman and vice chair of the VA committee. So I dealt a lot with the veterans community in the 8 years I was with his office. During that time, I got my master's degree in healthcare administration. So when this opportunity came up, it allowed me to stay within the veteran community and utilize the degree that I received, and I thought it was a perfect fit for me. So.
And the cool thing about it is you're a veteran yourself, too.
Oh, correct. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, yes, sir. Yeah, served 2005, 2010.
Talk to me a little bit about your military service.
Sure. So again, enlisted in 2005, Parris Island, did my boot camp there, spent a lot of my time at Cherry Point, North Carolina, direct air support operator. So essentially I called in airstrikes and medevacs, did a couple deployments to Iraq, got out in 2010, and that's when I started my time with the Congressman's office.
Talk to me about the importance of having that ability to basically walk in the same steps as what other members going through the VA process is.
Sure, that's exactly right too, and that's why I thought I could add some value to the organization because of my experience with the VA, not just my personal experience with the VA, but my time with the Congressman's office, dealing a lot with the veteran community and hearing their experiences as well. So it gave me that perspective, not only from a personal perspective, but from the perspective of other veterans and their experiences with the VA. And a lot, positive, obviously some negative, and there's always room for improvement, but that's actually helped me in my role here with the VA.
Well, one thing that you touched on right there, a lot of positives, some negative, but always it's a work in process with the VA, and what we're here to talk about is the Mission Act, and it's just another of the improving things that they're offering the veterans. Let's talk a little bit about that. What is the VA Mission Act?
So the Mission Act was signed into law June of last year, and there's a lot of components to it, but the main intent of the legislation was to improve veterans' access to care, so allowing them to receive care when and where they need it. That's basically the nooks and crannies of it, and we can go into further detail, but that's basically the basic elements of that legislation.
Now, for those that are looking at it, we always try and get that look from 30,000 feet.
Sure.
But is the Mission Act about privatizing the veterans' health care?
No, not at all. While the Mission Act does increase the veterans' opportunity to receive care within the community, we strongly believe, based on the quality of care and our ability to provide timely access to care to our veterans, that veterans will continue to utilize the VA to receive their care. And I'll just touch on the quality aspect of it. So there's been research done in recent years of how we measure up with the private sector, and we're actually comparable to, in some instances, actually perform better on some indicators as far as healthcare is concerned than the private sector. So veterans realize that and they recognize that, and that's why they continue to choose us to receive their care. And then the timely access to care component of it as well is we're able to provide same-day access for primary care and mental health care services in some specialty, and you can't find that in the private sector.
Yeah.
I receive my care through the VA, my family receives it through the private sector. They can't get same-day access in the community, and so again, veterans recognize that, and which is why more than 85% of them choose the VA when they're given the option to receive their care in the community. And we recognize the trust they have in us, and we always have room for improvement, but we feel like we can provide the best care to our veterans.
I know that when I first got out in 94-ish, 95, I went through Omaha, I went through Des Moines, and now I'm going through James A. Haley and our local CBOC. And one thing, it evolves.
Sure.
The care constantly, the care that's taken care of each and every veteran, no matter what the time frame you were in.
Sure.
It is just, to me, it's the best.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, we have a unique approach to the way we provide care to our veterans, and we spend a lot of time and effort and resources to continuously improve upon the way we're providing that care.
So how will the Mission Act improve community care then?
So like I said, there are different components of the Mission Act, but I'll focus on what veterans will recognize in their regular interactions. So one, it's the way they utilize the process to receive care within the community. We use a third-party administrator under previous community care providers. When you add a third party, sometimes it can add some convolution and delays, and so we've reduced their responsibilities, and so now veterans will only deal with the VA when they're embarking upon that process to receive care within the community, and they'll experience an overall better process when they go through that. And the second thing is we've expanded the eligibility criteria for veterans to receive care. So under Choice Act, it was that 40-mile, 30-day rule, but now we've reduced that wait time from 30 days to 20 days for primary care and 28 days for specialty care, and moved from the distance of 40 miles to drive time. So if you live further than 30 minutes for your primary care provider, then you'll be eligible for care within the community. And we also enhanced our telehealth capabilities, so veterans can receive care in the comfort of their own home if they want to, and a lot more veterans are utilizing that as well. And then finally, it's the urgent care benefit, which I'm most excited about. So veterans that have non-emergent issues, illnesses or injuries that require immediate attention, they can go to an in-network urgent care facility within their community and get that care on the spot, rather than driving to a VA to get that care. So that's
one of the things that you touched on, the specialty care versus what you would normally get. Explain that a little bit, just more in depth from what you would say you go see your normal doctor, but you have the specialty. Give some examples.
Sure.
Of that, if you would, please.
Primary care, obviously, it's your everyday physician for everyday issues that you may have, ongoing preventative care, and then specialty care. You're looking at podiatry, endocrinology, cardiology, dermatology. So those are some of our specialty care providers, and we have some of them based out of our outpatient clinics, but mostly they're at our main campus at James A. Haley.
Ultimately, giving the veteran the best care that they can get is the mission of this. Talk about how this will benefit the veterans in the long run.
Sure. So again, it's all about ensuring that veterans have access to the care when and where they need it. So we recognize, obviously, that we think we provide the best care for our veterans, but in some instances it might make more sense for that veteran to receive care within the community based on maybe the frequency of which they need to receive a treatment, rather than drive an hour, let's say 3 times a week to James A. Haley. Maybe it makes more sense for them to drive 5 minutes down the road from their house to receive that high frequency of care that they need, and they'll do that in consultation with their VA provider. So they'll have that discussion. They'll do what makes sense and is in the best interest of the veteran.
One thing that one thing that we're all, I don't want to say guilty of, but we kind of evolve with this, and we're always looking for more information no matter what. What's the best way that a veteran can look at this program and see what is best for them, and how can they find out more information?
Sure.
About
So we just revamped our website, and I know I hate referring people to a website because you think that it just it forces them to go and kind of read up on their own, but our website is completely revamped, very comprehensive and detailed. So va.gov, there's a Mission Act link right there. It'll give you all the information about your eligibility, and it'll also touch on that urgent care benefit that I spoke about, so they can locate the closest urgent care facility to them that's in our network, and then they can also call to find out what their eligibility is, because for the urgent care benefit, while you can receive that care without prior VA authorization, and in most cases you don't have to make any type of payment depending on what your priority group is. But if you call a number that's on that website, and I can give it to you now, it's
go ahead.
It's 833-483-8669, and you can call that number to find out what your eligibility is for that benefit and what type of co-payment you may have to pay, if anything. But going to the website and selecting the Mission Act link is probably the best way to get information on this legislation.
Michael, we have just a little bit of time left. I'm going to let you have the last word on this. Recap what we've gone through and get out the last bit of information that you feel is important for the veterans to know about this program.
Sure. So again, the Mission Act, the basic elements of it is improving our ability to provide timely access care to our veterans, whether it's they receive care through the VA facility, whether they receive care through the comfort of their home, through our telehealth capabilities, or if they choose to go to the community. But again, we feel like the veterans, as I said, for the most part, are understand and believe that we provide the best care for them, and we want to continue to improve upon the way we're providing that care and appreciate their trust in us to take care of them. So if they, again, have any questions, they can contact their local VA medical facility or go to the webpage and get more information on that Mission Act.
Well, Michael, I want to thank you for coming in and giving us the briefing on it. And anytime you need to get out the information, the chair is yours, brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity.
We will be right back with more of today's veteran after this.
The skills you can develop in the Army National Guard can give you an edge in the high-tech job market of tomorrow. The Guard offers career training to take advantage of your interests in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Gain practical experience with emerging technology and equipment that you can transfer to an exciting new field. Get a head start on your career while serving part-time and earning money to pay for college. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn about all of the STEM career opportunities available to you in the Army National Guard.
Welcome back to today's veteran. I'm your host, Brian Lacey. There are many ways to prepare your house and family for a hurricane long before it looms on the horizon. Not only can these preparations keep you safe, but they can also save you the stress and financial burden of extensive home repairs. The most important step in hurricane preparation is ensuring the safety of your family and yourself. Joining me in studio is Robert Foster. He's an emergency management specialist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Robert, for those that might not know what an emergency management specialist is, what is it that you do?
Basically, we make sure the hospital's prepared for any type of emergency that could possibly arise. The more humorous term would be the what-if department.
Yeah.
We basically plan for and evaluate what could possibly happen, what could impact our patient care, and even the community around us. So we basically try and make sure we have everything that could possibly be needed for any type of emergency or disaster that could occur.
Talk to me a little bit about what you did before this.
Before I got started in emergency management, I was actually a EMT paramedic. Started out as an Army medic in the National Guard. Took a few years off, worked in a private ambulance service, then went active duty as a combat medical specialist as well. When I got done with that, I actually became a paramedic for private ambulance service as well as Pasco County Fire Rescue. When I came into the VA, I was actually a healthcare tech within the emergency department, and then moved on to outreach to actually help to assist our veterans in the community get their veterans benefits. And then from there, I actually moved in and progressed into the emergency management field in 2015 and been there since. And it's, like my coworkers like to say, you know, it's our passion, and it does take an interesting person to come into the field.
Well, last year we got a chance to talk with Travis, and I didn't even know that it existed, and I was like, wow, you guys are, you know, and the toys that you have, we'll get to that here in a little bit. Talk to me a little bit about your service to the country.
Like I said, I did National Guard for 3 years as a combat medical specialist here in Tampa, attached to 131st MASH unit, one of the last MASH units in the service. And when I went on active duty, I was attached to Armored Headquarters group in Fort Hood. And I was there until shortly after 9/11. It was my duty time there. So we actually deployed a lot of soldiers right after 9/11 from that location. So.
And it's just kind of a natural fit for you to work for the VA then,
Yes,
right?
yes. It's my time in outreach. I learned that the veterans need that support of the VA, and like I said, that also became my passion as well as helping the other veterans. The best day I've ever had was, you know, when a veteran has come back to me and says, "Thank you for getting me enrolled and getting me the services that I need and deserved."
Well, we're in that time of season, really for you guys, it's busy, and really for our emergency management personnel, to the end of November, little thing we call here in Florida, hurricane season.
Yes.
And one of the things that, misnomers, one of the things that a lot of people look for is a shelter. And when it comes to sheltering, does the VA, does James A. Haley have shelters? What is it that they do shelter-wise, and what can you suggest for folks to do?
Well, as the VA as a whole are not considered shelters for the community. We do have a shelter-in-place program for our staff members and their families so that we can keep the patients' operations normal as possible. We do have resources for the community, such as our social work team will actually partner with our home health care team to make sure that veterans in the community can make contact with their local shelters. We always tell our veterans, if you have a special need, pre-register with the local county shelters that you're in the areas that you live in, and know where they're at and what requirements are for those. But we do have ways of actually pointing them out to the different communities. We do recommend going to like the ready.govs, FEMA.govs, and of course the local emergency management programs, such as Polk County, Emergency Management. They have a lot of resources on their websites, and even the other surrounding counties, they all have websites that'll actually point them to the direction of the shelters for them.
One of the things that I find amazing, when I first got to Florida, I really didn't, the hurricane thing wasn't really something I thought of until I got here. And then being deployed with Polk County Fire and Rescue, the actual assets that each county may have. Talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you guys have as far as what can help folks get through a hurricane and how you guys deploy them.
Oh, we can deploy them in a number of ways. For a major national disaster, once the Stafford Act is in place, we can actually be requested to deploy any of our mechanical or supply assets that we may have. If it's a simple community-wide disaster or a smaller scale, the hospital director actually has the ability to deploy any of the assets at his discretion or her discretion. We have a lot of specialized vehicles that the county may be able to utilize, such as our dual-use vehicles. It looks like a normal shuttle bus, but can actually be converted to carry stretchers, hospital beds, wheelchairs, those sorts of things, as well as a bunch of other more detailed assets. We do have a inflatable clinic tent system, which its current capability is 32 beds. And we can deploy that in a matter of just of hours and have it up and ready to go for what we call an alternate care site. Such as if a clinic goes down, we can actually put it up in those sorts of ways.
One of the things that we all watch for when the hurricane is coming is the cone. And you know, you got the countdown, you know, a week long, okay, it's in the general AO, get down into 2-3 days out, 24, 48 hours out. What does the James A. Haley Hospital do with patients, with everything that goes on when a hurricane, when that cone is getting close to the Tampa area, to the Central Florida area?
Well, typically what will happen is they will actually start looking at our internal resources and patient load that's within the hospital, seeing if it's better to send them out home to shelter at home so we can make room for any influx from the community. Another thing is like our home-based primary care will actually make contact with all of their patients to make sure that they are either prepped to go to a shelter if they're going to evacuate. For those folks that may be on oxygen or ventilator dependent, they ensure that they have plenty of supplies to last through. I believe it's up to a week without power and those sorts of things. So there's a lot of preparation on the patient care side. In our emergency management department, we're looking out weeks in advance of anything that may be coming off the coasts or that could develop, and we're actually preparing up to week and a half out before it even impacts the continental United States. So.
One of the things that we learned in the military, there's no such thing as luck. It's preparation meeting opportunity. And for those of us that have served and have family members that have been a part of that military ideology, talk to me about the importance of being prepared for a hurricane. I mean, we are in Florida. We had a little bit of a hiatus as far as hurricanes go, and sometimes people get a little bit lax, but talk about the importance of being prepared.
If you're not prepared, you're never going to be able to meet your needs during an emergency or a disaster. Preparation can be long-term as well as short-term. We highly recommend that people just start talking with their families. What are their needs going to be if, say, you lose power for a week? Medications on hand. During the season, it's imperative that folks have at least a 30-day supply of medications on hand. Try and keep that on throughout the entire year, because you never know what's going to happen that could disrupt services within your community. It could be a simple power outage in the middle of winter, and you can't get medications. So if you constantly stay up on your medications, you have those handy, as well as important documentations. Personal supplies, it's tailored to each individual family and family member. I know there's a saying that the first 72 is on you. We actually would recommend that people prepare for at least a week being on their own. Cash on hand, medications, food and water, and it can be a rolling supply, so to speak, such as bottled water. People like to stock up on bottled water, a week out from a hurricane, and of course the shelves are empty. If you constantly keep 3 or 4 cases of bottled water in your home regularly, that you already have a stockpile already started. So you're not, even though you're drinking from it, you're constantly resupplying that throughout the year. Same with generators. After a hurricane season, if you didn't have a generator for that season, go after the storms when they're on sale and get one for the next year. Just make sure that it's operational. You keep fresh fuel in it and run it. And of course, follow the safety guidelines that go along with the generators as well.
And one of the things when it comes to generators, a lot of people, think about it as a light switch. They really don't think about it until they need it and they hit the light switch.
Right.
But one thing I love to do is break up my generator and do my yard work. You know what I mean? Rather than plug it in, the things that I need electric, I'll break out the generator and just fire it up, once every 2-3 months to make sure. Talk about that preparation.
The preparation of definitely, you should keep it full at all times. Run it under a full load, like what you were talking about, doing yard work with it. Take it out, run it for a period of time to where you're running at least a third of the fuel out of the tank annually. And then, of course, they have chemicals and stuff that you can actually use to put in the fuel. But make sure that operates well before the season. I do it with my personal generator. I run it about an hour and a half every month and a half. And also, if people are planning on powering their households with them, that they should have a licensed electrician actually set that up for them. Don't try and do it yourself, and keep it safe. Keep it out of garages, out of the home. If you're worried about theft, chain it to a tree as far away from the house as you can. That way you don't have the carbon monoxide poisoning. And just definitely follow the manufacturer's guidelines on them.
We have just a little bit of time left, and what I want you to do is talk a little bit about the importance. Sure, what you guys do, you and Travis, is important to James A. Haley, but no matter where the veteran is from, talk about the importance of touching base with their hometown, home county emergency management office.
The importance is extreme. If you don't know what's in your area and what's available to you, you're going to be scrambling at the last minute and maybe not know where it's at, and then you can actually put yourself in danger. If you're out wandering the streets looking for a shelter to go to at the last minute, you could be caught out in the middle of the storm or whatever may be going on at that time. So if it's kind of like whenever you move into a new home, you want to know where all the rooms are, where the light switches are, the bathrooms are. You need to do that same thing within your county. You need to know who to call. If 911 service is out or if it's busy, do you know the secondary numbers for that service? Because they do have alternate phone lines, such as the VA. We have an alternate care line, and I know people are very popular with social media. The counties actually, a lot of the counties have their own social media accounts. Follow those. Know where your central services are, such as your emergency management departments, courthouses, and those sorts of things, because if you do have to go to their physical locations, you know where they're at ahead of time. And it's kind of like in the military, we do lay of the land. You know, we always go out and survey the area before we settle down. If you're moving into an area, do that as well. If you're in the area for a long time and you haven't been to the emergency management offices, the sheriff's office, or even the courthouse, they may have moved. You know, everybody's growing and changing, so know about those changes on a regular basis. And one of the ways they can do that is it's a family day. If you want to go out into the community one day, go to the park on your way home, find where the emergency management office is, know where they are, look at the websites. Like we had mentioned earlier, FEMA.gov and Ready.gov are two of the biggest websites for preparedness plans, and just your local websites as well will also have the emergency management tabs on there as well. And just, I can't emphasize it enough how much preparedness relies on you as a person to do.
Well, Robert, I want to thank you for coming in. A bunch of great information. And with any luck this year, we'll just have to, you know, watch it from afar.
We never know.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
For more information on hurricane preparation locally, go to www.polk-county.net/emergency-management. That's going to do it for this edition of Today's Veteran. I want to thank our guests today, but most of all, I want to thank you for joining us. Remember, for help and information regarding claims, benefits, and services available to veterans and their families, call the Polk County Veterans Service office at 863-534-5220 or log on to the Polk County website at polk-county.net. I'm your host, Brian Lacey, and we'll see you next month.